Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you are just tuning in, we've just gone over the winners and losers from the NFL Week 1 kickoff season. Before we get into it, there is some breaking news. Breaking news out of the NFL for the sixth segment we just finished, and we can put this in the losers section as well. Puka Nacua is out for at least 4 weeks, being placed on the IR with a knee issue. Sean McVay, in a press conference just now, comes out. The injury is a knee injury. Out at least 4 weeks, being placed officially on the IR. It's not great for the Rams. We did see the offense start to move, though, against a tough Lions defense. Cooper Kupp, career high, 14 receptions. That connection is alive and well between Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp. I was really interested to see the dynamics for Cooper Kupp, healthy Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Matthew Stafford when all three of them were healthy, but it seems like we're doomed to just have one of those guys on the field at any given moment. We'll see what happens. This is very unfortunate for Puka Nacua and the Rams, but I do think the Rams team will be just fine. They made the playoffs without Cooper Kupp. I think they can do the same thing they did last year without Puka. We saw the Stafford Kupp connection win a Super Bowl. So, not necessarily too worried, but it is definitely a little bit worrying. Their depth, especially their offensive line depth, not where you want it to be. But anyway, we're going to get into some college football winners and losers in just a second. But before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, September 9th. But like I was saying, getting into college football. College football was equally, if not more, insane than that Sunday that we just went over. From the early games where we saw Texas absolutely destroy Michigan, to a late game that saw Ashton Genty and Boise State nearly take down the behemoth that is Oregon. We'll break down all the winners, all the losers, starting off with the winners here. And what's a better place to start than what was the headlining game of the week? Maybe the headlining game of the season. Definitely the biggest one to date. Number 3, Texas, heading up to Ann Arbor, playing a game in the Big House, taking on the number 10 Michigan Wolverines. And my God, did Texas make a statement. Their defense completely shut down the Michigan offense. Texas comes in and basically does whatever they want. Quinn Ewers vaulted himself very high into the Heisman conversation. Texas might be back. Texas looks like one of, if not the best teams in the nation, inarguably a top 3 team, arguably the best team in the nation. Now, that's a competition with Georgia that I am not personally going to get into. But Texas looked really good. Again, their offense got anything they wanted. They were able to completely shut down that defense until the Michigan offense until a garbage time touchdown. They just look like one of the most complete teams in football. And it's going to be really, really, really tough to stop this Texas team. Continuing on in that early window, another team I was really impressed by, former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord, and the Syracuse Orange. I know Syracuse is not a football school, but they bring in a lot of transfers from a lot of big programs, including quarterback Kyle McCord, who was kind of shunned out of Ohio State after not being able to run an offense good enough to beat Jim Harbaugh and Michigan and really compete for a national title. Putting even Ryan Day's job in jeopardy is kind of crazy. He comes into Syracuse, looks good in his first game. Not a great team, but does his job, wins a game against Ohio, comes in week 2 against a now ranked opponent in Georgia Tech, and that offense could not be stopped. Syracuse is a fun team, a physical team, a fast team. They're one of my favorite teams, and quite honestly, I am shocked that they aren't ranked. Syracuse looked really good. They beat a top 25 opponent in Georgia Tech. Again, I personally don't think they should have been ranked after Florida State, but they were. They ranked after Florida State. They come in to Syracuse. They lose that game in. It looked closer than it was. It ends up being a 3-point game, but Kyle McCord and Syracuse were up 2 possessions basically the whole time. That defense from Syracuse was able to stop a very potent run attack, a run attack that no one had been able to stop up to this point in that with Georgia Tech, right? That's a huge ACC win in a wide open ACC conference. Really, Syracuse vaulting themselves up into contention for that ACC title. You have Miami, which head and shoulders above everybody else in the ACC. It's their thing to lose. They could still lose it. Anything could happen. Below them, in my opinion, if we're doing ACC rankings here, Louisville at 2, and then Syracuse, and then I mean, there's a couple other ACC options, but Syracuse has vaulted themselves up into that top tier of ACC teams, that second tier competing for that second spot in the ACC finals. Syracuse looks really good, and quite honestly, I am shocked that they are not ranked. Another one that I wanted to point out in the early window of games, an early window of games that was phenomenal to watch. QB Darian Mensah out of Tulane looks like a world beater. A freshman who was starting on who was a practice squad guy, started his second career game, comes out against a Kansas State team that's ranked currently in the top 15 after squeaking out a victory. A victory that, quite honestly, they probably shouldn't have won. They won on a kind of ticky-tacky offensive pass interference call on a game-tying touchdown by Tulane. This is a very, very good Tulane team. Tomorrow, we're going to do a group of 5 top 20. We're going to do a top 25 ranking. I've done mine. We're going to react to the AP as well. And I'm also going to do a group of 5 top 5. Don't be surprised if Tulane makes it on that list higher than you think. Tulane and Darian Mensah look explosive on that offense. Not to mention those weapons on the wide receiver in the wide receiver room. Mario Williams, number 4 on Tulane, looked like he was unguardable. Honestly, I was watching him after I watched the Packers and Jaden Reed. I mean, he looks like, if we're doing comparisons, they did this on the live broadcast, and then I could not stop seeing it. Darian Mensah and Jordan Love, their throwing motions, their throwing style, the way they move around in the pocket, they almost look identical. I know people are talking about Nebraska, Dylan Raiola and Patrick Mahomes in that comparison, but Jordan Love and Darian Mensah, kind of the same way, kind of looking pretty similar the way they play the game of football. And Jaden Reed and Mario Williams, again, kind of looking similar. This Tulane team could be dangerous. This Tulane team is very, very good this year. Moving on to the late window of games, and this is probably the one you guys have been waiting for, talking about college football week 2 winners. How about Northern Illinois? How about Northern Illinois coming into South Bend, Indiana, being paid $1.5 million to do it, and knocking off number 5 Notre Dame? Now, there are a lot of issues with Notre Dame, and we're going to talk about Notre Dame kicking off the losers section of this show, which is going to come up in our next segment. But Northern Illinois controlled that game. They win on incredible special teams play, not only blocking a field goal to end the game, but they blocked another field goal earlier on in the game to keep them ahead heading into halftime. Their run defense, really their defense entirely really stepped up, and maybe that says more about Notre Dame. Again, we'll get into Notre Dame in the next segment, but that grit, that ability to play in a tight game and just control the time of possession, make your way through a tough tough Notre Dame defense. I don't think anyone is arguing Notre Dame's defense isn't really good, but Northern Illinois with a top 5 victory. They had never won a game against a top 5 program. They were 0-51 in their history. One of the biggest upsets in college football history. Northern Illinois comes in. Now they're ranked at 25. That's super exciting for that program. Again, we'll see if that makes them in this new college football format. Maybe that eliminates Notre Dame and puts Northern Illinois into that 12 spot. Again, tomorrow we'll go through all of that. We'll do a top 5 group of 5 ranking. But my God, was that so much fun to watch. 2 more things, 2 more winners, and then we're gonna head into the losers after that. Clemson putting up 66 against a good App State team. App State is a team that, I thought was in contention for that group of 5 spot. I talked up the Sun Belt a lot, but they kind of fizzled out a little bit this week against some opponents that I think they should have done better against. But App State loses by 40. Maybe that's just Georgia. Maybe Georgia really is just that special. Clemson only able to put up 3 points against them, but my God, they didn't have to do that to App State. They went out there and they said, hey, we deserve to be in this conversation. I know I kind of counted Clemson out when I went through that ACC stuff, but if they can continue to play like this, if Cade Klubnik can continue to put up offensive numbers like this, maybe they're still in the running there. Maybe I counted them out just a little bit too soon. Clemson's a good team. Georgia's a better team. They absolutely wrecked shop against App State, kind of destroyed their playoff resume, honestly. That was a game I expected Clemson to win, but I thought that would be a lot closer. And finally, Boise State and Ashton Genty. And really, I want to focus more on Ashton Genty here. Ashton Genty has a chance to do something that has not been done as long as I can remember. He has the chance to win the Heisman as a group of 5 player. Ashton Genty through 2 weeks, 467 yards and 9 touchdowns. He is on pace for almost 3,000 rushing yards. He is on pace for over 50 touchdowns this season. That is ridiculous numbers. Now, that's inflated numbers. He's not going to run for 50 touchdowns, but what if he did? What if he did? He rushed for 6 in week 1, 3 in week 2, over 200 yards both times, almost upsets a top 10 team in the country, near single-handedly, I must say. This Boise State team and Ashton Genty, they're going to be some trouble. Ashton Genty is very firmly in that Heisman conversation, and very firmly he should stay in there. I know he's going to get discounted because group of 5. I know he's going to get discounted because he's not a quarterback, but he should absolutely be in that conversation. Kind of crazy how he fell through the cracks and got to a school like Boise State. And I know I said last one, but I didn't have this one in my notes. I apologize. Colorado, man. Colorado is done. Coach Prime might be fired at the end of this season. Just the way that they're playing, Nebraska comes out and absolutely destroys them. We saw them almost lose to North Dakota State, who, personally, I think North Dakota State is kind of getting a little bit too much flack here because they're still a very good program. And they almost beat them because they're a very good program, but that defense can't do anything. They cannot run the ball. It's literally Travis Hunter against the world. Shadur Sanders holds the ball way too long. That offensive line is a mess. Coach Prime doesn't really know how to coach a program. He can build up a program with lots of names and talent because he attracts it, but he doesn't know how to coach it. And that is seriously becoming a very real issue. They're going to continue to get all of this hype as long as he's there, and maybe that's enough for Colorado, getting their program back in the spotlight for the first time in almost 20 years. But maybe they want to start to win games. And unfortunately, that's going to have to come with the price of losing Coach Prime, I think, because the way I see it, they're not going to be a successful college program with him there unless something drastic changes. He had a year to adjust to the higher level of competition. He didn't do anything. He doesn't recruit. He needs to start recruiting. He can't just sit there and, quite frankly, be lazy as a coach. He isn't he's just saying, "Hey guys, my name is Deion Sanders. Come play for me," and it works. It does because he's got the aura. He's got the kind of energy that you want to play with if you're a good team. But he doesn't know how to team build. He doesn't know how to get that chemistry in, and it's just not going to work out for Colorado if he continues to be that coach. Oh, I know that was winners, but there's a preview for the losers right there. Nebraska. Nebraska is the winner here. Dylan Raiola looked really good, and that Nebraska team looks unstoppable. I won't say unstoppable, but their line, they're physical, and if they can play like that with the offense they have, the defense can just play solid. They're a real threat to make a run this season. But yeah, we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to continue our losers. I know it kind of started that one a little early. My fault. Couldn't wait. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.